strap yourselves in, because today we're going deep, deep into a film that's, well, a little bit out there.
Oh, I like out there.
It's David Cronenberg's 1996 film Crash.
Oh.
And before you go thinking, like, high-speed chases and, Vin Diesel.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, exactly. Think again.
Yeah.
We're going way, way deeper than that. Our source of material today is actually just a single review that calls the film horny, weird, and brilliant, all in the same breath.
Wow, that is quite the combination.
It is, and that's why we're here. Our mission today is to figure out why this film Crash is still stirring up so much fascination and debate, even decades after it came out.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Crash really occupies this strange space in cinema. Like, some people consider it a masterpiece, truly a work of art, while others, they're completely repulsed.
Yeah, like how can a film get those two completely opposite reactions?
Exactly.
So let's unpack this a little bit. The review I have here mentions cars, carnage, and carnal desires. So lay it on me. What is Crash really about at its core?
Well, the film follows this group of people who find sexual arousal in car crashes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's based on a novel by J.G. Ballard.
Oh, okay.
And he was known for delving into some pretty, dark and taboo subjects.
Right.
And the film just takes that and kind of, amps it up to 11.
Okay, yeah, that is definitely not something you see every day.
It's very unique.
Yeah. The reviewer describes it as a fever dream of chrome, flesh, and raw id. That's, evocative is the good word for that. But they also say it's not just about this bizarre sexual fetish, right? Like, they argue that Cronenberg is actually using this extreme scenario to explore deeper themes.
Oh, for sure.
About humanity's relationship with technology and, our morbid curiosity about death.
Yes.
And how the lines between pleasure and pain can get all blurred.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes Crash so fascinating, even unsettling. It forces us to confront these darker impulses that, exist within all of us, right? The things we might be drawn to, even if they kind of repulse us at the same time.
Right, like that car wreck you can't look away from, kind of.
Exactly.
It's a little uneasy, but I'm definitely intrigued. I'll say that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the characters. We've got James Ballard, played by James Spader.
Yes.
What's his deal in this whole thing?
Well, the reviewer describes Spader as playing like the most bored pervert alive, which, just from that.
A very specific description.
It is. And you just get this image of, he's detached, maybe going through like an existential crisis, and he finds this dark escape in, this car crash fetish.
Yeah. That makes me think about the whole idea of boredom and, like, what we do as humans to try to escape that.
Oh, totally?
Is that what drives these characters to such an extreme? Are they just looking for, like, any feeling, even if it comes from something destructive?
Yeah, it's possible. And the film definitely raises questions about, like, what motivates these characters to seek pleasure in such a, destructive and unusual way?
Yeah.
What are those voids that they're trying to fill?
Right. And then there's Catherine, Ballard's wife, played by Deborah Kara Unger.
The review says she has, like, rich gallery owner who only dates sociopaths' energy.
Oh, yeah, she is. Elegant, distant, and surprisingly accepting of her husband's, unusual desires. The reviewer almost makes it sound like she's complicit in his, like, descent into this world, almost like encouraging it in a way.
Wow, so there's a whole other layer to their relationship then.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about his obsession. It's about how that obsession, like, affects their dynamic.
Absolutely.
And then there's Vaughn, who is the leader of this whole group of car crash enthusiasts, played by Elias Koteas.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets interesting, because the reviewer describes him with one word: moist.
Moist.
I'm sorry, I need more context. What is moist about this character?
So I think what they're trying to capture there is just the unsettling, almost visceral nature of his performance. Like, they're grasping for a word to describe this intensity, this charisma that makes Vaughn both repulsive and strangely compelling at the same time.
It's like that magnetic but kind of dangerous energy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm picturing something very specific, and I don't know if I like it.
You don't know what to make of it.
But it definitely makes me want to keep going. Now, the review also mentions something called the one breast rule. And I have to ask, what in the world is that?
So apparently, and this is wild, in every sex scene in the film, only one breast is exposed.
What?
Yeah, like every single time.
Why? Was this a budget constraint? Some kind of weird artistic statement? Did Cronenberg lose a bet?
I don't the review doesn't really offer an explanation, but they do point out, the absurdity of it.
It's so specific, it's got to be intentional, right?
It's like Cronenberg is deliberately playing with our expectations and challenging our ideas of, what's considered erotic or sexy. He wants us to feel off-kilter, a little unsettled.
It's like he's saying, you think you know what to expect from a film about sex and car crashes? Think again.
Yeah, like, I'm going to flip the script on you.
Totally. It's definitely not your average erotic thriller.
No, and I think this is where that whole body horror element comes in.
Oh, yeah. Explain that a little bit for our listeners who might not be familiar with, like, the whole genre.
So body horror is this genre that explores the transformation, the violation, the vulnerability of the human body. And Cronenberg, like, he's a master of this genre. He uses it to evoke feelings of disgust and fear and fascination all at once.
It's like a cocktail of emotions you don't want to experience, but you kind of do at the same time.
It's addictive.
Yeah. So he's not just showing us car crashes and sex.
Yeah.
He's using those elements to explore deeper anxieties we all have about our physical selves, our mortality.
Oh, exactly.
Our relationship with all this technology around us.
Precisely. And by using this one-breast rule, he's further, subverting our expectations and adding this layer of psychological unease to the whole film.
So it's like a mind game on top of everything else.
Oh, yeah. He wants you to think.
I gotta say, this is already a lot to process.
It's a lot.
And we haven't even gotten to the infamous scar-fucking scene yet.
Oh, we're going to get there.
But before we dive into that, I want to go back to, like, the bigger picture, right? This review keeps using the word masterpiece, so there's got to be more to this film than just twisted metal and unsettling sex, right? What makes Crash something that people would consider art? Like, what are the deeper themes that Cronenberg is trying to explore here?
Well, I think one of the most prominent themes is the whole relationship between technology and identity.
Okay.
In Crash, cars become almost like extensions of the characters' desires, their insecurities, even their very identities.
Yeah, that's interesting because we live in a world that's so intertwined with technology now. Our phones, our computers, our cars. It's like they're all part of us.
They're part of our daily lives, yeah.
Maybe Cronenberg was ahead of his time in, like, exploring this connection way back in '96.
Oh, absolutely. He was definitely tapping into something that's become even more relevant today, for sure. But in Crash, he takes it to, like, a much darker, more extreme level.
Oh,
well, the characters don't just, use cars, right? They fetishize them, they worship them, and they find, like, this sexual gratification in the violence and destruction they represent. It's like the line between human and machine just becomes totally blurred.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but how it can, like, consume us, how it can get all tangled up with our deepest desires and anxieties, right?
Exactly.
And that brings us to another theme, obsession. Crash feels like a study of obsession in its purest, most destructive form.
Absolutely, because these characters are driven by their desires, consumed by them, to the point where they just lose sight of everything else.
It's like their obsessions become their entire reality.
Their world.
It defines their relationships, their purpose, their understanding of everything.
Exactly. And that obsession leads them down a very, very dark path.
Yeah, I mean, they become willing to sacrifice everything, right? Their bodies, their relationships, even their lives. All in pursuit of this, like, ultimate transcendent experience.
Yeah, just that peak.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this film is so controversial.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it's not just about shocking imagery. It's about exploring, like, that dark side of human nature.
The things we don't talk about.
Yeah, the things we try to avoid thinking about.
And that's exactly what makes it so compelling, even though it's deeply unsettling. It forces us to confront our own capacity for that darkness, our own obsessions, our own, complicated relationships with technology and mortality and all that.
Heavy stuff, but I am definitely hooked.
Good.
Let's take a closer look at how these themes actually play out in the film, starting with that infamous scar-fucking scene.
We're going there.
Okay, so the scar-fucking scene.
Yeah, we got to talk about it.
This is one that the reviewer mentions as, like, particularly disturbing.
Oh, it is.
Even, within the context of this whole film. So what makes it stand out? Like, what is it about this scene that is so...
I mean, without being too graphic, it involves a character with, like, a mangled leg and a very specific fetish. And I think the reviewer points to this scene as a prime example of how Cronenberg uses, that body horror to elicit, like, disgust, but also this strange sense of fascination. Like, it's not erotic in any conventional sense, but it is undeniably impactful.
It's effective.
Yeah.
So how does he do that? Like, how does Cronenberg achieve that effect? Is it just about showing gruesome imagery?
Yeah.
Or is there more to it?
It's more than that. I think Cronenberg is like a master of using these cinematic techniques to create a very specific mood and tone.
Okay.
Think about like the framing of the shots, the lighting, the sound design. It all works together to create this sense of unease and tension. Even the way he uses silence can be unsettling.
Like he's playing with our expectations on, like, multiple levels.
Yeah.
It's not just the subject matter, it's the way he presents it.
Right. Like the way he makes you feel it.
That makes it so disturbing. It's more than just shock value.
Exactly. He's not trying to like titillate or exploit, you know? He's trying to get under your skin, make you question your own reactions, your own desires.
Yeah, that actually makes me think about the reviewer's comparison of the film to, like, a car wreck you can't look away from.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Cronenberg is creating a cinematic car crash, you know? Something both repulsive and strangely mesmerizing.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to, you know, the film's whole exploration of our fascination with, like, spectacle and disaster.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like how, you know, people slow down to look at car accidents.
Even though they know they shouldn't.
Even though they know they shouldn't, but you just can't help but look.
That rubbernecking, yeah.
Yeah. And Crash takes that impulse to the extreme.
Totally.
The characters in the film, they're, like, obsessed with recreating famous car crashes, almost like they're trying to tap into this, like, mythology surrounding those events.
Totally. Like they want to experience those moments of intensity, of tragedy, of, you know, sometimes even celebrity, even though it's through this like really twisted and voyeuristic lens.
Like a morbid fascination with it all.
Yeah. And there's also that element of like danger, right? Of pushing those boundaries. That's also part of the appeal. These characters are drawn to like the edge, right?
The line.
To the point where pleasure and pain just become almost indistinguishable.
Like they're addicted to that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
That feeling of like really being alive in those moments of impact.
Exactly. And that ties into the film's exploration of, you know, technology and its dehumanizing effects, right?
Oh, so.
Well, in a world that's so dominated by machines, even our most intimate acts, they become like cold and calculated.
Right. So we're losing that human connection.
Exactly.
So we're not just talking about car crashes as these literal events, but like metaphors
Oh, for sure.
for a society that's obsessed with speed, technology, spectacle. It's like we're all crashing.